Okay, here's the truth. I went to a wedding on New Year's Eve and I didn't bring a card. I know, me, the person who literally makes cards and crafts as part of my job. But in all fairness, it was the chaos of the holidays and I didn't have time to make a card. And honestly, I also had a better idea than a simple card for this couple. And they do say that you have a full year to send the gift after the wedding, right? I think that's a thing. And I already did give them a gift, but I'm gonna apply that rule to cards too. So if you've been following me for a while, you know that this year I got obsessed with embroidery, and obviously I've always been obsessed with calligraphy and lettering. So at first I was like, why not make it a card and try embroidery on my lettering on the card, if that makes sense. I'm talking like something like this. I'll put a little example on the screen of what I was kind of picturing. And if that turned out well, I pictured that maybe they could frame it and keep it as a keepsake, like cut it out and put it in a frame. And maybe I'm making a bold assumption that they would love what I make them so much that they're gonna frame it, but we're gonna roll with that. But then I was like, well, why don't I just skip them having to cut it out and frame it and just make it a piece of art in a frame for them? Because I have this beautiful frame that I thrifted recently that feels like the perfect frame for this. And then I was like, well, if I'm gonna frame it and put it in here, then why do it on boring old paper if it's not gonna be a card anymore anyway? And at this point you might be like, Becca, that's not gonna be a card at all anymore. That's just a full second gift. I know. Am I gonna need to make a card to go with this gift even though it was meant to be a card in the first place? So anyway, I thought, what if I use a cool fabric instead and I frame that? Kind of thinking like this vibe. I'll pop another image on screen kind of what I'm thinking. So now my full idea is to make a framed piece of embroidered lettering that they can keep as a keepsake. And maybe I'll just write the card part on the back or something. Can I pull this off? I'm not sure. My embroidery skills are limited, but we're gonna find out. And these are the kind of friends who will appreciate the effort and the handmade touch and pretend that they love it, even if it's crap. So that works in my favor. Okay, so I have my general idea. I'm thinking that I'm going to basically like make a piece of art on fabric that is the size of this. And then after I'm done embroidering it on the fabric, I'll glue it onto that cardboard backing and stick it into the frame. We'll see if that vision pans out or if I have to adjust as we go, but that's the general thinking. And their names are Lana and Kate, so I'm going to figure out like a little calligraphy style way of writing that with the date of their wedding. And then we're gonna see if I can manage to embroider it nice enough for this to actually turn out the way I have it in my head. So step one is to draw out basically my like rough outline of my lettering. And first things first, before I even do it to scale, if you've seen me do lettering before, if you've seen me do layouts before, I have a couple videos on that if you're ever looking for help with it. But I basically do a couple thumbnails first and then I work towards the bigger like 2-scale version. And I just want to preface all of this by saying that I am a calligrapher by trade, so this comes naturally to me. If it doesn't come naturally to you, and if you're trying to do this, you could also do it in block letters. You could also use a font. You can do whatever you want, but I highly encourage you to learn calligraphy because it's the best. And if that's the case, I'll link to my free course in the description below. But this part I'm going to move kind of quickly through because that's not the point of the video. So I'm just going to doodle some of my like general ideas for the layout of it. Typically I just write out the names right off the bat to see like if there's anything I can spot that would work. That looks great, and I could put like a little ampersand here. Lana and Kate, these names actually work really nicely together. But I think there's an opportunity to like loop together the end of this L with the start of the K, like maybe the K comes right off that L and we can get rid of this piece. I actually really like that as my first attempt. I might go with that because I'm happy with it immediately, but I'm gonna try writing Kate and Lana as a little experiment just to see if I might like that even better. As you can see, I do these really, really rough first. And I don't think that's going to work as well because, I mean, the end of the K could turn into the L. But something about not having enough space here for that actual loop on the L, that doesn't seem to work quite as well. So I actually really like this option. And if you want to, you can keep going and going until you have an option you're like obsessed with. I'm pretty obsessed with that one right off the bat. So I'm gonna go with this. So my next step is to do it actually to scale. And to do that, I'm gonna take my embroidery hoop, which I'm going to use for my fabric. Because if you see, like, I'm gonna essentially, I could use a bigger embroidery hoop. In fact, I probably should, but I just don't have one with me and I'm not a professional embroiderer. I don't really know what I'm doing. So I'm gonna stick with this smaller size. But yeah, I'm basically gonna like center it. So if my lettering fits within this hoop, I know it's gonna fit within my design. And I think that that's like a nice size to be centered in there. I wouldn't want it really any bigger. So let's go with this. I'm gonna just make a circle on my paper so that I know the size of my hoop. And then I'm gonna take that outline that I did and I'm gonna actually kind of rough it in more precisely. And like, I know that because there's room outside of my hoop, because there is room outside of my hoop, like I'm trying to take up as much of this hoop as possible. And I can go a little bit outside of it if I want. I could go home and get my bigger hoop and do this. I don't know, we'll see. I'm gonna sketch it out and see, maybe I will make it just fit right inside that hoop. But for now, I like having a big loop on that L, so we'll see. And I'm gonna rough in the first letters first because they connect, and then I'll be able to see where all the rest of it lands. And you'll notice I'm doing this in pencil because it's probably gonna get adjusted. I just wanna like triple say that this is what I do for a living, is calligraphy. This is like how this channel came to be, is learning calligraphy and teaching calligraphy. So if you're seeing me do this and you're like, wow, that looks really easy. It's not. I've just had a lot of practice with it. I'm not sure yet if I want this T to connect to the E. I'm not sure if this A is a little too big, but at first glance, this looks good to me. And I actually think I could probably just move my hoop and then it'll fit within. So that's nice that I can like recenter it after. So let's say I'm recentering it to here. I'm gonna draw like a more solid line. And now I want, I think at this point anyway, I think I want the date of their wedding just in block numbers underneath. And I think I'm gonna want it to be like pretty big-ish. I really should have used a bigger embroidery hoop, but we're just gonna go with it. You know what? I probably could map it out and then do the embroidery on that part and then move my embroidery hoop and do the numbers. So I'm gonna not worry too much about the edges of this hoop being my constraint. I'm gonna actually just put in the numbers that I want. So in Canada, I believe it would be day, month, year. Yeah. So it was New Year's Eve, 31, 12, 25. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the 12 in the middle. I'm probably just gonna make these like the most basic numbers because I know I have to embroider them after. I'm actually still not entirely sure how I'm gonna do these numbers, like with what embroidery stitch, but that's a figure-outable thing as I go. This is not good. This is not gonna work. These are too spread out. The 12 was not centered, and I think it was also a bit too big. So let's go here. 12, where did I say? 31, 25. 31, 12, 25. Centered under that. And then I also, again, I need an ampersand. So let's go here. I think I should move that a little. You know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab some marker paper. If I had tracing paper, I would grab that too, but this is still translucent. So I'll put that over top. Trace the parts that I like. This way I can see it a little more clearly too without all my like million pencil scribbles. And then I can move this a little to put the ampersand where I actually want it. This might be a silly attempt to do an ampersand that style in embroidery when I don't really know what I'm doing, but we're gonna try it. And then I can center that date a little better too. Okay. And now if I take my hoop, center it as best I can. There we go. There's my design. Okay. Design is done. And now I know that to put it on fabric, I know this, but I've never done it. So we're going to learn together. This is called Sulky Stick and Stitch, and it's printable. So you could print a font right onto it. I'm just going to use it kind of as tracing paper, and I'm going to draw onto it because I don't have the patience to put it through my printer. But basically you can put your drawing on it, then you put it on the fabric and you can use it as your stencil, and then you wash it off and it comes off. So I'm going to put it over top, and luckily I can see through it a little bit. So I'm going to trace this through as precisely as I can to what I actually want it to be in the stitching. Okay, yeah, I think that's better. So now I need my fabric. Okay, here's the true story. I wanted to put this on like a thrifted shirt with a cool fabric. And I tracked down this shirt at Value Village, which is like our Goodwill if you're in the States, our thrift store. And it's like a really soft fabric and it's got a cool pattern on it. And I thought if I did some thread that was like that beige color, it would look really pretty. I'm just not convinced that this red looks good with this frame. It might be a little too red heavy, if you know what I mean. So I think I might go more basic. And I'm just gonna use some of this linen that I have. I think if I just keep it like a pretty beige on the background and use a colored fabric, a colored thread instead of a colored fabric, that would look pretty. And so when I looked through my thread, I was inspired by the color of Lana's suit at the wedding, which was kind of like a really dark emerald green kind of thing. So I think if I did the lettering and the numbers in this pretty green thread on this beige in this frame, I think it's gonna look really pretty, hopefully. All right, the next step is to cut this out and cut my fabric and stick it all together. Where are my scissors? Anyone else have this issue where you just never know where you put your scissors? Found some. Okay. These are not fabric scissors. I'm not that person yet. Maybe I will be when I start sewing and quilting and all the things that are on my bucket list. But for now, I'm just using plain old scissors and I'm going to just cut a piece of this, I guess. I've actually never used this linen. Okay, let me cut a big enough piece that it'll hold well in my hoop, and then also I can center it in the frame and I can easily glue it onto the backing. Okay. Got my linen, and I assume too that if I pull it into my hoop, it's going to stretch out and like de-wrinkle. Is that a word? De-wrinkle, unwrinkle. I think I put this in here first so that then I can stick on my design on top. Again, don't really know what I'm doing. Okay. Get it nice and squished in there. Okay, tighten this. So I've got basically my canvas that I'm gonna embroider on, and now I wanna put my design on top. So I'm gonna cut out like as close to the edges of it as possible because I don't want a ton of it in my way. I probably could even cut out the date and move it around and like stick it on after I've done the design and make sure I have it exactly where I want it. So maybe I'm gonna do that actually. I'm gonna keep that to the side for now and just do the names first. So I think that's pretty good. I'm gonna peel off. Did I do this really stupidly? I think I did this really stupidly. I'm just realizing that how does this work? I probably should have read the instructions on this sulky stuff first. I just assumed I was doing it right, and I definitely was not. Yeah, this is the back. I drew on the back. Yep. I needed to draw on the front. So we're just gonna quickly redo that. That should work better. This makes a lot more sense. If I had taken like a millisecond to think about it, probably would have figured that out. Okay, there are my names. Now let's peel the back off. I bet you a bunch of you were watching that being like, you're doing that wrong, Becca. When are you gonna notice it? Let's place this on here. And at this point, it doesn't really matter exactly where it goes because it's a circle, but I wanna make sure that I can like easily access each piece of it to embroider. Okay. I've also actually just never worked with this sulky stuff at all, so I don't know how hard it's gonna be to get my needle to go through. We're gonna find out. All right, so I have my thread, and I don't know what's happening here. I want it to be fairly thick. Okay, yeah, that piece was already split into 2 strands. I think I want it to be like probably 4. Quick disclaimer here to say that like I said, I don't know a ton about embroidery, so I'm gonna be doing what I think will work. If you know more about embroidery, by all means, do what works for you, and also don't judge me. And if you don't know anything about embroidery and you're hoping that I'm gonna teach you, I am not at that stage yet, so you can watch what I'm doing and hopefully use it as like an inspo for later, but I'm not really gonna be like teaching how I'm doing the thing because it's hard for me to teach something that I'm not super familiar with. But what I do know is that you can split embroidery thread so that your writing or your design is not quite as thick. And so each embroidery thread that I have has 6 strands, and I'm splitting it so that I have 3, and I'm sure there's a better way to do it. In fact, I know there's a better way to do it. I'm just lazy. There we go. Okay. So I have my 3 strands, and this is the absolute worst part, is trying to thread them through the eye of that needle. I've learned that if you use your fingers and like really pinch it. I'm also doing this in the wrong hand. I don't know why I'm doing that. Pinch it as hard as you can, get it like flat, and then try. Oh my gosh, first try. That never happens. Okay. So I know some people say not to put, or that you don't have to put a knot at the end of your thread. There's like other ways to secure it at the back. I'm just gonna give myself a knot at the end of my thread so that I can get going with this quickly. So I'm going to do a reverse chain stitch, I think is what it's called. One of the ones that I remember from when I took an embroidery course, and I'll link to the course that I took actually because it's really helpful, and she gave me a discount code, so I'll link to it for you. This is also something that I would normally do on my couch with a show on, because it's gonna take a while. And you know what? I might actually just take my camera with me and go finish this on my couch and then come back and talk more about the process when it's finished. But yeah, we'll see. So I do that, then I go back through, I think, or maybe it's the other. I don't think it really matters which way I go. Come back through there and back down in the same hole. Some of you might be watching being like, that is not how you do that, but I like it and I think it's gonna work. Let's see. Pretty, yeah. So I'm gonna do that for these entire words and it's gonna take me a long time. Probably not the length of a video you would be interested in watching. So I think I will pack up my camera as I'm thinking now. I'm sitting at my office doing this at my desk and it's gonna break my back. I think I will pack up my camera, bring it home, show you some of the process of me working on this from my couch, and then we can come back and talk about the steps, the next steps when I'm finished, because this will be a long process. It's gonna look pretty though. Okay, I'm really glad I decided to come home when I did, because look at this snowstorm. Like, there's so much snow on the ground right now, and if I had waited any longer at my office, I probably would have gotten snowed in. So let me get my soft pants on and keep crafting. Joke was on me here because as soon as I stepped into my house, I was greeted with like 500 other things to do that didn't end until both my kids were in bed at 8 p.m. and I could finally sit down on the couch. And then joke was on me again because literally the second I put my feet up. Yeah. Anyone else experience that as a parent? Literally, as soon as you put your feet up, they yell for you again. Anyway, I finally got her to sleep and I got to work, but I quickly realized this was going to take me a lot longer than I expected. I'm not going to lie, I was up on my couch embroidering this until like 11. And for reference, I'm usually in bed at like 9:30 latest. But anyway, I got it done. Look how cute. All right, it is now the next morning, as you can probably tell, because the lighting in here is so beautiful right now. Took me a lot longer to get to where I am than I thought. I thought I would be able to just like sit at my desk and do this. And then, as you know, I had to go home, finish it. It took me well into the night last night to finish this. I guess that's what happens when you don't actually really know how to do embroidery that well. But look how cute it is. It's turning out so cute already. So now I have to decide if I'm putting the date on it or not. And I'm so torn. I think I probably should, because I think it really, it deserves to be there. This is a wedding gift, but I was thinking it might be helpful to see sort of what this is going to look like in the frame before I decide exactly where the placement of the date is going to be. So I'm going to take this out of here. Okay, and I'm realizing I also might need to like iron this once it's all finished before I actually send it to them. But basically, you know what? Let's, how should I do this? Okay, this is the size. This is the size of what I'm looking at. So it's going to be approximately like this. It's hard to see now because everything's wrinkled, but I think it's gonna look something like this. And so if I put the date like here-ish, I think it could look really pretty. Yeah, I guess again, I have to like, have to write it on the right part of the sulky. Yeah. You know, I think it's gonna look good, but I also think that I need to kind of map out exactly where it's gonna go based on like the baseline-ish of these. And if that's a word that you don't know, it's because you're potentially not a calligrapher. But basically, like, I want it to be on the straight line that the words are. So I'm just kind of like eyeballing this. I don't know. It's going to be tricky, but I do think it needs to be there. I'm going to give myself also use my laser level. If you've never used a laser level for lettering, it's incredible. So I'm going to put an approximate laser level as my top line. I don't know if you can see that with the lighting of this room right now, but it's giving me my waistline, which is the top line, and then my ruler is giving me my baseline. I still am not sure how I'm going to embroider this. I'm sure some of you are watching and you know exactly how you would do that, but it's not entirely my forte to know like all the stitches. I might just have to wing it and hope that it looks good, which is like, that should be written on my tombstone. Wing it and hope it looks good. Okay. I think that's going to be it. And I actually think I might want it a little higher now that I'm seeing it. I just need to do it. I need to stop overthinking it and do it. And again, hope that it looks good. How do I do this? This goes on the outside. This goes on the inside. Let's get our numbers on here. Just go for it. Okay, I'm obsessing about this now. I need to just do it. Stick and go. Let's put, oh no. Okay, got that on there. Let's get my thread. My cute little scissors. I've got my cute little needle holder. There's probably a different word for that I don't know, but there we go. And then the thread I've been using. I shouldn't need too much, but I never know. So I'm just gonna give myself a nice long piece. And I'm gonna separate the strands again. All right. One thing I've discovered that I do, that I just kind of made up, I don't know if this is a thing, but like this works better when all three ends are tight and you're pulling them apart. So I've been holding this one in my mouth. See? And then I don't get tangles. I just found myself doing that on the couch yesterday and I thought I should show that little tip. Although I'm sure that the experienced embroiderers among you all have your own trick. Okay, so let's get this threaded, hopefully on the first try. The lighting in here is so nice right now. So how am I gonna do this? I think I'm just gonna have to do some tiny little stitches. Let's see how it goes. Just gonna have to try and come back in that same hole. I don't know what this stitch would be called. A running stitch? Something like that? I don't know. Just trying to make them really tiny because these are tiny little numbers. I think it's gonna work. Uh-oh. I've got to tangle. Oh no. Will that come through? No. Oh no, no, no. I guess when you're talking and not paying attention, that's when stuff like that happens. Just trying really hard not to make a hole in this because I've done so much work on it already. Okay, good enough. It's getting really warm in here with this sun on my exact eyeballs. So again, I'll apologize for the way the sun is hitting my desk right now. I don't usually film at this time of day because of that. Let's try this again. Maybe I'll try a slightly different stitch. Maybe that attempt I was doing is the reason why it got all knotted. Let me try something different. I think it's gonna work. My numbers might not be perfect, but that will be what it will be. I think if I did even smaller stitches, it would work. Like I'd be able to get more accurate with the shape of my numbers, but ain't nobody got time for that. It's also good enough. You can tell that's a 3. So I'm gonna move on. Okay, I got my last stitch in for the 5. So my numbers are like, they're not perfect, but I'm happy with the way this looks. So I'm gonna finish off at the back here. And I had this idea of something else I might add, which like this is turning into much more than just a congratulations card, which was the whole point of this. But I have this idea of what I might do once I've figured out exactly how it's going to look in this frame. Before I do that though, I am going to take this to the sink, and basically all you do is run this under the water and the backing, the sulky, will come off. So let's do that. Okay, so it's all washed off. This is now dripping wet, and I don't want to wring it because I don't want to affect the embroidery. So I'm going to hang it and let it dry. And ideally the wrinkles will also come out and I won't have to iron it or anything. And then when it's dry, I'm going to show you how I'm going to set it up in the frame and potentially add one more touch, but TBD. Okay, so in the time that it took for this to dry, I went to the gym. So mind the sweatiness, and also I dropped a giant 45-pound plate on my toe, my pinky toe, and it is really hurting me right now. Just want to be fully candid with where I'm at. Also, the lighting in here is still not great on my desk. It's okay. I think that we've gotten far enough in this tutorial that you know what's going on. And now that this is dry, it actually dried like kind of wrinkly, but in a good way. I actually am kind of really liking the wrinkles. So I'm going to see before I iron it or anything if I actually might like it in the frame this way. And right off the bat, as I'm playing with this, I actually think I'm going to really like the texture. It just looks a little bit more like it looks like it has a little bit of flavor, you know? Not in a taste way, but like I don't know, it has a little something. I actually am also wondering if I even want the glass over top of this, or if I want to keep it so that they can feel the texture. Like, I feel like if I put this glass over top, and it's filthy too, but I think it's gonna actually kind of ruin it. I should probably try it. Oh, I can't decide. No, I think I like it better without the glass. I don't know. I think I like it like that. Okay. I did allude earlier to the fact that I might do one more thing. And what that one more thing was, is I was thinking of doing like some little border around the outside of this just to finish it off. Like maybe even a little flower or something, and then like some dotted lines and like a little mix of dotted lines and flowers. That being said, if I'm going to do that, it's going to take me a long time. I'm not going to bother showing it on here because we've seen the process of how I do this now. Although this time I think I'll just use a dissolving marker, not the sticky stuff. And I'm not going to demonstrate all the stitching because it'll take forever. So for now, let's just pretend as if this is finished. I'm going to take it home tonight and sit with it for a little while and see what I think. Decide if I want the glass, decide if I want a little border, and I will give you an update when it's finished. I'll show you the finished product. So there we have it. I finished it off. I don't even want to admit how long it took me to do the border with the scalloped edges like that, but it felt like it needed a little something, and I'm happy I did it. I'm a little scared at how much it's going to cost me to ship this, but I think it's going to be worth it. It's going to be a really nice gift to receive. And I also need to take the back off again and write my actual greeting in there because this is, again, supposed to be a card. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope it was fun to watch the process of making this, and I think we will all look back on this as I improve with my embroidery, and we'll kind of laugh at how much better I will be in the future. But that's the nature of crafting. All right, see you guys in the next video.